"Keep me eyes and me ears open," she told him, "and be round there like a shot."
Seems a nice little thing. Held me hand and skipped along at the side of me, she did.
He paused, then met his mother's gaze.
But she didn't say any more, not even to her mam. Do you think she's, well?
He tapped his forefinger to the side of his head.
You know, all right.
Bessie frowned.
"I'd need to know her a bit more before I could be sure."
Dan was thoughtful for a moment. Then he seemed to shake himself.
"Well, I'll best get Miss N changed if I'm to see Susan tonight."
"Mind how you go and don't be late in."
The young man grinned at her, put his arm about her ample waist and kissed her cheek.
"Yes, ma, no, ma, 3 bags full, ma."
Then he stepped smartly back out of the way as Bessie's hand came up to smack his face. But the gesture was playful and affectionate, with no strength or malice behind it.
"Go on with you,"
she smiled at him.
"and give me love to Susan. Time you named the day with that lass, you know, else you'll be losing her. She's a nice girl."
"Oh, I'm not ready to tie the knot yet a while. I want me own ship first."
Bessie shook her head, but there was fond pride in her tone as she murmured,
"You remind me so much of me own father, Dan. He didn't marry me mother until he skippered his own ship. Mind you, he never owned it. But I reckon he thought of it as his boat. I was born on the river, you know."
She grinned.
"Somewhere between here and Newark."
Dan knew it only too well, as did all their family, but he listened patiently to his mother's reminiscing.
"Aye, it was me dad's life's ambition to own his own ship."
Her tone became wistful.
"But he never managed it."
Then she smiled at her eldest son, as she added softly,
"Maybe you'll achieve it for him, lad."
Dan grinned.
"I mean to have a damn good try, ma'am."
Bessie was dozing, her feet on the warm brass fender, when Bert came home from the Waterman's Arms.
"He was in the pub,"
Bert said without preamble, as he lowered himself into the chair opposite his wife. Bessie opened one eye.
"Who was?"
Bert jerked his thumb towards the wall.
"Him from next door. Sid, Clark, was it the little lass said?"
Bessie nodded.
"He bought me a pint."
Bessie closed her eye and said drowsily,
"I hope you didn't buy him one back."
Bert spread his hands.
"Bessie, my angel, a chap's got to play the game, you know."
Now both Bessie's eyes flew wide open.
"You mean you did?"
Bert shifted uncomfortably.
"You've got to be sociable with the chap."
"You may have to be, Bert Ruddick, but I certainly don't. Not if he knocks his missus about and clouts that bairn of his."
"Are you sure about that, Bess? I admit I was a bit wary of him at first, after what you'd said, but I have to say he seemed a nice sort of a chap."
Bessie snorted.
"Well, he would be, wouldn't he, Bert Ruddick, if he bought you a pint?"
Then she smiled, as her husband had the grace to look sheepish. She cocked her head on one side, listening.
"Mind you, I don't hear any thumps and bumps from next door now, so maybe I've got it all wrong. Maybe that little woman really did fall over a tea chest like she said."
She shrugged her well-rounded shoulders.
"And as for the bairn, well, kids is always getting bumps and bruises, ain't they?"
Bert nodded, watching Bessie as she levered herself out of the chair.
"Come on, Bert, time for bed."
She held out her hand and hoisted him to his feet. Then she smiled coyly down at him.
"You like a bit of a cuddle, Bertie?"
Bert shook his head.
"Oh, Bess, light of my life. Now be gentle with me. I've got a headache."
Bess gave a deep-throated chuckle and pulled him toward